I want to return to a topic we've discussed before, because at the moment the United States Senate is hopefully performing the function that the founders of our republic had in mind when they gave that body the responsibility to confirm the key nominees of the president to executive branch positions. Specifically, I'm talking about the nomination of Harold Koh to be the State Department legal advisor, the top lawyer in the Department of State. This is a tremendously important nomination and an important moment for the Senate if it wishes to uphold and fulfill its constitutional responsibilities, because Harold Koh is a man who seems to have very low regard for the Constitution of the United States. And if he is in fact confirmed, and if he performs his duties in the State Department the way he seems to intend to, based upon his long record as the dean of Yale Law School and a professor there and in previous positions, he will seek to alter the Constitution and the laws that flow from it in ways that will mutate both, I'm afraid, beyond recognition. How? By virtue of, as he puts it, internalizing into our domestic jurisprudence the rulings of foreign judges, of international tribunals, of even conventions that are held by various international organizations and that propound what are called international norms. In other words, without the say-so, without the approval, without the endorsement of our elected officials who, pursuant to the Constitution of the United States, which I believe is the indispensable ingredient in the success of this republic, in its marvelous American experiment, we're going to see laws promulgated or at least mutated by these international lawyers. So as the Senate is considering this nomination of Harold Koh for the State Department, I think they need to look at a couple of issues, some of them came up in the course of the nomination hearing that was held recently in the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. A number of them didn't. All of them are important. And the American people need to know where Harold Koh stands on these things, not just how he might behave when he is in office, something he used as sort of a dodge, but what he thinks about these things now, which I think determine his fitness for this job and the exercise of the responsibilities that go with it. For example, as the legal advisor to the State Department, Harold Koh is going to have to take an oath of office, as all government officials do. There are variations on the theme, but basically what it requires is the solemn promise on the part of the oath taker to uphold and protect the Constitution of the United States. How can Harold Koh do that? How can he take that oath when he believes that the Constitution can be effectively amended by anybody who thinks that they've got a better way? They have a more internationally approved way of governing or of managing national affairs. There's also the problem that since Harold Koh derives the standing for his theory of what's called universal jurisprudence from the fact that in the Declaration of Independence, the framers said the United States needs to pay decent respect to the opinions of mankind. Well, this idea that that means we need to do whatever they tell us to do has a number of very ominous implications. For example, what if they tell us that we need to allow the beating of our women, or their stoning for adultery, or their beheading for apostasy? Well, if the opinion of mankind is expressed in Sharia law, this theo-political legal program that authoritative Islam requires all of us to submit to, well, who's to say that our Constitution is supreme or superior, or at least must be respected, instead of Sharia law? What if, as seems to be the implication of the recent act adopted by the House of Representatives, that we start imposing criminal penalties on hate crimes or even hate speech? Well, it's not that far a step to having our constitutional rights to freedom of expression being circumscribed by Sharia blasphemy laws or somebody else's decision as to what Americans can and cannot say. What about the question, Mr. Coe, of foreign judges and tribunals prosecuting American lawyers or officials? Well, there's a lot of interest apparently at the moment, even in the Obama Justice Department, in cooperating with such a prosecution of Bush administration officials, not just lawyers who wrote the so-called torture memos, but those who prosecuted the war against terrorists who were trying to destroy this country and still are. Well, I wonder how Mr. Coe might feel about this if his legal opinions, were he to be confirmed, that are used to justify, for example, the Predator drone attacks against Taliban targets in Pakistan and unfortunately might result in the death of innocent civilians. What happens if somebody decides that's a war crime, Mr. Coe? What happens if somebody decides to prosecute you for having found legal grounds for doing such attacks in what you perhaps arguably would consider the national security interests of the United States? And here's another question. We have had the Department of State, the agency to which Mr. Coe aspires to become the top lawyer, issuing green cards, permission to come to this country and reside here, to thousands of Somali and other refugees. Yes, Somali refugees drawn from the same population set, I am sorry to say, as the pirates that are now threatening international shipping, and for that matter, the Sharia government that is trying to consolidate power there. This population, according to the State Department's own internal investigation, is 80% fraudulently in this country. They falsely claim to be coming on the basis of family reunification. What does Mr. Coe think about that? Would he advise, would he support the repatriation of people who are illegally here, especially people who, it seems, are engaged not only in horrific socioeconomic blight on mostly rural communities in America where they're being dumped by the State Department, but also, frankly, health problems that are associated with their approach, shall we say, to hygiene, or for that matter, their sympathies, at least some of them, for the people who engage in terror in the name of jihad in the furtherance of Sharia. What about that, Mr. Coe? And please, don't give me the line that you won't have a position until you're confirmed. You have a position now. It's clear from your writings, it's clear from what you have said publicly on any number of occasions that your view is that American national interests must be subordinated to these larger international requirements, such as the obligation to find homes for refugee populations. So, in short, we're looking very directly at the face of an agenda on the part of the Obama administration that I think has profound and almost certainly very ominous implications for the Constitution of the United States and the form of government and the economic opportunities and the political freedoms that we enjoy. We need to know whether the United States Senate is going to find Harold Coe as an exemplar, as a preeminent champion of that agenda, compatible with, suitable for, and indeed the appropriate man to be the top lawyer in the Department of State. I don't believe he is, and I hope you'll let him know as well. Thanks for listening.